Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Kenyans, in the last 2 weeks, our country has experienced grave acts of lawlessness, widespread violence, looting, and invasion of private property by persons taking advantage of political demonstrations called by the opposition. Will we start again or something? Okay. Kama ingekuwa wao Okay. Somebody tell me when we are ready. Kidogo bado eh? Mumenichelewesha sana. This statement I was supposed to make at 4:30. Thank you very much. Dear Kenyans, in the last 2 weeks, our country has experienced grave acts of lawlessness, widespread violence, looting, and invasion of private property by persons taking advantage of political demonstrations called by the opposition. During this period, lives have been lost, people injured, property looted or destroyed. The economy has suffered and our image as a nation dented. Our security agencies have endeavored to do everything within the law to protect the lives and property of all citizens. Nevertheless, the violence, chaos, and disorder continues to distract our national focus of economic transformation. 3 Kenyans, among them a police officer, have lost their lives in the protest. More than 400 Kenyans, including at least 60 security officers, have been injured. A police vehicle was burnt to ashes somewhere in Kawangware, while another was hijacked and commandeered by unruly protesters somewhere in Migori. 2 houses of worship were burned down in Kibra. Kiosks, supermarkets, and a mortuary were looted. Fellow Kenyans, our country's image and history in the League of Modern Nations has been at stake in the last 2 weeks. The country's economy has been hit hard at a time when my administration is doing everything possible to salvage the economy from the deep hole where we found it. My administration has instituted solid measures and policies to attract investors and through their investment create opportunities for millions of our young people to realize their potential, amongst many of the other issues that we are doing as government. We cannot, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow these efforts to be derailed by acts of violence, chaos, and anarchy. We all have an obligation to respect the Constitution of Kenya. This also includes the respect of institutions established and created by the Constitution. Our country's electoral system and process is anchored on the principles of our Constitution. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission conducted a free, fair, and transparent general election on the 9th of August 2022, a poll that was observed by different organizations, both local and international. The Commission declared the results for all 6 elections conducted, and any contestants who who are aggrieved by the outcome had an opportunity to present their grievances to the country's judicial system for arbitration. The Supreme Court of Kenya had and determined with finality the 2022 presidential election dispute and ruled on the petitions that were filed by the aggrieved contestants and their supporters. Nevertheless, I have carefully listened to the issues raised by my friend, the Honorable Raila Odinga. In times like this, it is not about who is right or who is wrong. Like Winston Churchill said, I dare say, and I quote, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but it is also what it takes to sit down and listen." I have always been ready to engage Kenyans of all walks of life, including elected and appointed leaders from across the political divide and the religious fraternity, on how to make our country better and prosperous. And in the last 6 months, I have talked to many religious leaders. I have talked to many elected leaders from across the political divide. My door still remains open for honest, objective, and sincere deliberations based on the rule of law and the Constitution. On the reconstitution of the future Electoral Commission, the selection panel that currently is in office is a creation of the law that was passed by the two chambers of parliament in response to a court decision. The court clearly stated that one institution, and in this case, Parliament, cannot dominate the process of establishing an electoral commission at the expense of other institutions that have a role to play in the country's electoral process. However, considering the matters raised by our friends in the opposition, I suggest a bipartisan engagement in Parliament on the reconstitution of the IEBC panel within the parameters of the law and the Constitution. In any case, as a Democrat and guided by the Constitution, I, on the 9th of December 2022, sent a memorandum to the Speakers of the National Assembly and Senate requesting the purposive intervention on implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, entrenchment in the Constitution of the Constituency Development Fund, Senate oversight and national gender affirmative action funds, establishment of the position of the Leader of Opposition, and the improvement of parliamentary oversight of the executive. And for the record, Parliament has already approved the parliamentary oversight of the executive, and shortly, cabinet secretaries will be appearing before the House to answer questions. The other items are still in Parliament. The IEBC selection panel and the future process of recruitment of its commissioners could as well be part of a conversation leading to constitutionally and legally binding proposals through a bipartisan parliamentary process. In other words, I am suggesting that the issues that have been raised by our friends on the matter of IEBC, my suggestion is that this matter can be handled in Parliament by a bipartisan parliamentary process so that we can agree on what it is they have an issue with, and we can adjust as is agreed and as necessary. And therefore, in these circumstances, and in view of the recent events that led to loss of life and destruction of property in the demonstrations that have occasioned in our country for the last 2 weeks, I urge my brother Raila Odinga and the opposition to call off the demonstrations and to give this bipartisan approach a chance for us to take the country forward. Meanwhile, I call on all Kenyans to remain peaceful and law-abiding, and I assure them that the government of Kenya will continue with its sacred duty of protecting their lives and their property, including their businesses. Thank you very much. I can take one or two questions.
Jina langu ni Joel Chacha kutoka runinga ya K24. Baadhi ya matakwa ya Azimio vile vile ni kuhusiana na gharama ya juu ya maisha. Je, Wakenya watarajie kupungua kwa bei ya bidhaa muhimu kufikia lini?
Tuko na mpango kamili ambaye tunashughulikia gharama ya maisha. Kwa mara ya kwanza tumesajili wakulima milioni 5. Tuko na mbolea milioni 6. Saa hizi wakulima wetu wanashughulika na kupanda chakula kote katika taifa letu la Kenya. Juzi nilitangaza ya kwamba tumeagiza chakula kutoka nje na itaanza kufika wiki hii. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba pale kutakapotokea pengo ya kukosekana kwa chakula kabla hatujapata ile chakula ambayo tunazalisha mashambani na wakulima wetu, tutakuwa na nafasi ya kutumia chakula ambayo tumeagiza kutoka nchi za nje. Tumeagiza mahindi, tumeagiza mchele, tumeagiza maharagwe, tumeagiza chakula ya aina nyingi ambazo tayari tulipatiana ilani kwa wakulima wetu kwamba kama kuna mkulima yeyote ambaye bado wako na chakula katika magala zao waziuze, kwa sababu kuanzia mwezi huu tutapata chakula kutoka nje ya nchi. Na pili, ni watangazie Wakenya ya kwamba mahali tulipata gharama ya chakula pale ilikuwa shilingi 230. Kufikia sasa ni shilingi 180. Kumaanisha ya kwamba zile hatua tumezichukua zimeanza kupunguza gharama ya maisha, lakini mpango yetu ni mpango ambayo inaitwa sustainable. Ndio sababu tunashughulika na wakulima wetu.
My name is Chemutai Goen from Citizen TV, and in paving way to this bipartisan process that will initiate in Parliament, if it doesn't bear any fruit, and the positions that have been taken by yourself, your deputy, and several other leaders in government regarding a handshake or a working relationship, do we then foresee this possibly leading to that if it is for nation than for self?
Chemutai, I didn't understand what you said. Sorry. Yeah, somebody was talking to me here. So, Pole.
Yeah, that's a former colleague. My question: this bipartisan process that is being initiated, possibly that will start in Parliament, if it doesn't bear any fruit, and the positions that have been taken by yourself, your deputy, and other leaders in your government regarding a handshake, do we foresee a position where maybe there will be softening of stances and a possible working relationship, even if it does not translate to sharing of positions in government?
You know, as a believer in the rule of law, and as a believer in running an accountable government, our position is that we should never be in the position that this country was put by the handshake, where there is no distinction between government and the opposition. Once you compromise accountability and oversight, you are in for a lot of trouble. Our position is that we want to engage our brothers and sisters on the other side on issues that are important to the people of Kenya, them as an opposition, us as a government. That way, the system of checks and balances remains intact.
Mr. President, I'm Sydney Chazima from NTV. I have one or two questions. One, in a parliament where the ruling party or the ruling coalition enjoys a very high majority, how bipartisan will that process be? And then secondly, you've only touched on one of the issues that the opposition was putting forward as part of their demands. There are issues to do with the servers, there are issues to do with the high cost of living, which you have mentioned. Then thirdly, this is to do with the demonstrations. We've seen some kind of brute force against the media from the police. We would like you to address that.
On your first issue, we've been this road before. We've sorted out matters in a bipartisan way in Parliament before, irrespective of what numbers there are. And in any case, the numbers in Parliament, the difference is not that much from where I sit. So I do not see any threat of any side. And in any case, when we engage in a bipartisan approach, it is not a game of numbers. It is a game of reason and how we put our arguments in a manner that carries not one side, but all sides. That is the essence of a bipartisan approach. I have responded in my statement, if you read carefully my statement, I have responded to all the issues that our good friends on the other side have engaged in. And finally, we are great believers in free media. And any engagement that puts the media in danger is not acceptable. However, in the context of the violent demonstrations, you agree that there has been a lot of violence against citizens, many citizens, properties, burning down of buildings, including churches. In that confusion, there could have been incidences where the media was caught in the fray. I do not think there is any deliberate attack on the media. And if there was such deliberate attack on the media, I can tell you we would be opposed to it and we would not support it and we would actually deal with it, because we believe that the media should be left to carry out its duties, its broadcasts, irrespective of how unfair they may be. It doesn't really matter. But the media should be left alone, irrespective of how biased they may be. Okay, any other maneno? And just for the record, because I have seen some other people say, oh, maybe the media will be, I don't know what will be switched off. Take it from me. Kenya has come a long way. The era of switching off, I don't know, this or that's way behind us. I have said we will support the right of the media to carry out its function. You have our absolute support, irrespective of how biased you are against us. We will support you. Yeah? We will support you to do whatever it is that you're doing. But I am sure if we exchange positions, if you are standing where I'm standing, you guys would have switched off the media. But us, we will not. Sawa. Asante.